Newsfirst at 9. Headlines.
A very good evening and welcome. This is Primetime News at 9 on MTV Sports and Shakti TV. I'm Ramesh Bandara from the Newsfirst newsroom here in Colombo with your headlines for tonight. In the charge of the contempt of court case against him, Minister Rishad Badiuddin apologizes to the members of the judiciary. UK Foreign Secretary William Hague says that the time has come now for international action on the human rights situation in Sri Lanka. Also making the headlines tonight, Malaysian military confirms that radar reports indicate that flight MH370 purposely veered off course. President Mahinda Rajapaksa pays homage to the relics of the Mahaveli Saya in Kotmale. And finally, the 8th edition of the Newsfirst Come at the program gets underway in Mathura. These are the headlines for tonight. Nadim Majid and Stephanie Lazarus are standing by at the main news studio. Over to you guys.
Well, thank you very much, Ramesh. Hello, good evening and welcome to Primetime News. I'm Nadim Majid.
I'm Stephanie Lazarus. Let's start off with tonight's top story. 3 people have died after a concrete pillar fell onto them in the Kottun area in Sapugaskanda, and police media spokesperson SSP Ajit Rona said that the incident took place at around 6:45 p.m. this evening. A group of workers engaged in construction activities on the Kaduwela-Palligoda Expressway died as a result of the accident.
Meanwhile, overseas, the UK Foreign Secretary William Hague says that the time has now come for international action on the human rights situation in Sri Lanka. Hague expressed this sentiment in a written statement to the British Parliament yesterday. In his statement, British Foreign Secretary William Hague notes that no credible domestic accountability processes have been set up to date in Sri Lanka, even following Prime Minister David Cameron's statement that Britain would use its position in the UNHRC to push for an international investigation if credible steps are not taken to ensure accountability for alleged human rights violations. In this backdrop, Hague notes that the time has now come for international action on the human rights situation in Sri Lanka. The British Foreign Secretary notes that adoption of the resolution on Sri Lanka at the UNHRC is not a foregone conclusion, and that he would be contacting UNHRC members along with Prime Minister David Cameron to support a strong resolution that calls for an international investigation. Hague also notes in his statement that the UK has previously welcomed progress in Sri Lanka in areas including demining, reconstruction of former conflict-affected areas and the reintegration of child soldiers. But he noted that it is also important that this progress is matched by substantive progress in reconciliation, human rights and accountability.
Northern Provincial Councillor Anandi Sasidharan says that following the end of the war, there are thousands of children in Sri Lanka who are searching for their loved ones. She made this statement addressing the 25th regular sessions of the UNHRC.
I am here today not only as a voice of an NGO, but also as a mother of 3 daughters who are still searching for their father. My husband Elian was a political leader. He surrendered to Sri Lanka army in front of our own eyes at the end of the war. 5 years have gone. The Sri Lankan government has no answer to our questions. There are thousands of children like mine searching for their loved ones. As I speak here today, the Sri Lankan army has arrested a 13-year-old girl, Vibhushika Balendran, who comes to every protest crying and seeking to free her brother. Her arrest is as an open threat against every child protesting injustice. The occupying military carrying weapons is controlling every aspect of our civil lives. There is one soldier per 5 civilians.
Now, a mobile promotional campaign titled Defeat the Geneva Conspiracy That Threatens the Sovereignty of Sri Lanka commenced from Tangol today.
The campaign commenced from the Henekadu Temple in Tangol. A large group was in attendance for the program organized by the Joint Trade Union Alliance and the Assistant Secretaries Association. The mobile promotional campaign is to reach Colombo on the 21st of this month.
A public rally was held in Katuwanahambantota today under the patronage of MP Sajith Premadasa.
Ada Tangalla Nagare
Today the people in Tangol are being rallied and taken on processions. Election laws are being blatantly violated. I inquired into whether this was a demonstration organized to seek some relief. But it was a demonstration against Geneva. Will Barack Obama change his opinion because you go on processions? Will David Cameron change his opinion? Will the European Union, Navneet Pillai and Ban Ki-moon change their opinions? In truth, no. What should happen? There must be a solution to the hardships faced by the people. They have latched onto a false Geneva terror and are attempting to use Geneva as a bait to win this election this time around as well.
Geneva billava pennala මැතිවරණයේ ජයග්‍රහණය කරන්න.
Our developing story tonight is a story that has captured the attention of the world. Malaysian Airlines has issued a statement saying that the airline's focus is now on the care of the passengers' families. Malaysian Airlines reiterates that it will continue to give its full support in cooperating with the search and rescue mission which is being coordinated by the Malaysian Ministry of Transport. Newsfirst has been closely monitoring the developments surrounding the mysterious disappearance of Malaysian Airlines flight MH370. Let's now cross over to the newsroom where Ramesh Irugal Bandara, together with the Newsfirst International Desk, is ready to give us a comprehensive and in-depth look into the latest developments.
Well, thank you, Nadim. Well, there has been a new development on the fate of flight MH370. Now, two initial conclusions came about after the flight went missing. One was that the flight could have crashed, and the other is that the flight could have been hijacked. Now, there has been new evidence to suggest that the flight may have been hijacked. Now, investigators are now saying that the flight, which was heading from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing, had purposely gone off track around thousands of miles from its destination, from its directed path, because of some issue. Now, investigators say there are two possibilities of what could have happened. One is that the flight could have been manually taken off course by a pilot or someone who knows to navigate an aircraft, or it could have been systematically programmed into the autopilot itself. So it is still unclear as to what happened to flight MH370. Now, initially it was intended to fly northeast from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing, but it veered westwards towards the Andaman Islands, and now because of this, the Americans as well as the international community who are searching for flight MH370 have begun to focus their attention on the Andaman Islands area and the Indian Ocean as a possible area where this flight could have landed. Well, as I was saying, the flight was headed towards Beijing. However, it had veered off path and headed towards the Andaman Islands and the Indian Ocean. As I said earlier, the US and the international community are searching for this flight in this area right now.
U.S. air safety officials are in Kuala Lumpur working closely with the Malaysian government on the investigation. There are a number of possible scenarios that are being investigated as to what happened to the flight, and we are not in a position at this time to make conclusions about what happened, unfortunately. It's my understanding that based on some new information that's not necessarily conclusive, but new information, an additional search area may be opened in the Indian Ocean, and we are consulting with international partners about the appropriate assets to deploy. But I don't have anything more on that.
Well, there are a number of ways in which a Boeing 777 communicates with the ground. Now, what you can see here in this graphic are the 9 points through which a Boeing 777 could communicate with the ground. Now, according to investigators, they have picked up a ping from number 3, which is located on the Rolls-Royce engine of the Malaysian Airlines craft, hours after it lost contact with the ground. However, Malaysian Airlines executives now say that the possibility of discovering MH370 is very low right now.
We are actually searching that part of the geography, but the likelihood of the aircraft being there is probably very, very low.
Information is coming from various sources, and sometimes actually from reputable sources, particularly the recent one about messages coming from the engines of the aircraft for many hours after the aircraft we had lost contact with it. That has now been refuted by the people. The appropriate newspaper has retracted its statements, but in the meanwhile it created issues for a lot of the family members that thought information had not been correctly translated to them. I don't think the families will be satisfied until they find out what happened to the aircraft. And I think you have a range of emotions in there, from people who are very vocal and very angry about the situation and very frustrated at the lack of information in terms of where is the aircraft, and others that may have reached a more equitable or balanced viewpoint, more resignation, I suspect. That may not be the most appropriate word, but it really is that they've come to accept that there's not going to be a good outcome and are just waiting quietly for the information to come in.
Now, over 200 passengers were on board this ill-fated flight that went missing. Prayers as well as candlelight vigils are taking place all over the world for the passengers who have gone missing.
The airline started flight MH318, the first flight to replace the MH370 from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing, and flight number MH319 to replace MH371. Prayers were held in the Philippines too, where about 24 students activists in Manila held a vigil. The flight vanished after climbing to a cruising altitude of 35,000 feet between Kuala Lumpur and Beijing. Filipino students lit candles and offered prayers in front of their school building, offering messages of hope for families of the missing passengers. Now on its 6th day, search teams have yet to find any concrete traces of a missing plane that was carrying 239 people.
Now, Sri Lankan national captain Elmo Jayawardena, who is a pilot himself, says that most of the reports that are coming out on the Boeing 777 and what happened to flight MH370 are based on speculation, and that the Boeing 777 has an excellent safety record. Newsfirst Shamir Rasuldeen caught up with the captain Elmo Jayawardena today to find out what exactly happened to flight MH370.
Captain Jayawardena, the Boeing 777 has a very, very good safety record. And it has 9 communication channels as well. Can a plane go missing suddenly?
Yes. It's very simple. You can have 100 channels, right? But if something happened that instantly broke the communication lines, it goes away. If something happened to the two pilots instantly, then they can't communicate even if they had 1,000 lines.
Captain Jayawardena, everyone is aware of the black box, records the information, communication of the two pilots during a flight. There can also be confidential communication between the pilot and the airline as well. In an instance like this, must the airline provide information to the authorities?
It's like this, you see, I don't know what kind of communications they had, but there is a voice recorder in the aeroplane. Now, whatever communications they had, right, Malaysian Airlines wouldn't have that unless they found the voice recorder.
Can there be confidential communication between the pilot and the airline during a flight?
Of course, I can take my handphone and call now. Very confidential, nobody would know.
In case of MH370, Captain Jayawardena, do you think that the airline is hiding something?
Certainly not. No, I don't think at all that they are hiding anything.
Well, reports indicate, Captain Jayawardena, that in a span of 72 hours, the flight in question has travelled to many countries before heading to Beijing. Can a Boeing 777 do so?
Absolutely no problem. Absolutely no problem.
The Boeing 777 design also says that there is a crack that might lead to corrosion, and this might disintegrate the flight in midair.
In the aviation history, there were aeroplanes that had cracks, right, like the Comet, right, or the Electra, right, they checked. But even if there is a crack, the crack doesn't disintegrate an aeroplane immediately, and even if that happened, I think the captain still had time to press that button and say, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday.
Rolls-Royce yesterday said, Captain Jayawardena, that the plane was 4 hours in operation after it disappeared.
Now I also know that some people said that you're searching in the wrong way because it was off track, and for 4 hours it would have gone to Timbuktu, for that matter, right? But all these are speculations, total speculations, right? When Rolls-Royce says it flew for 4 hours, they cover themselves beautifully that there was nothing wrong with the engines. Simple, right?
In the case of MH370, can you have any hope of the survivors?
There's always hope. I mean, I would say there's always hope.
Nearly $400 million is spent on a Boeing 777, Captain Jayawardena. Must the safety and security of passengers be strengthened further in an airline like this?
I don't think so. Because, you see, all these aeroplanes, be it Airbus, be it Boeing, whatever it is, they are tested and then they are sent out to fly. And they have very stringent tests to be passed before they are qualified to fly an aeroplane. Same for the pilots too. But unfortunately, these things do happen.
239 people on board. Rescue and search missions are continuing for the last 7 days. What would have happened to the 239 people on board MH370? The authorities are left with more questions and less answers. Newsfirst is on alert.
Thank you, Shamir Rasuldeen, for that comprehensive interview. I would now like to turn our attention to a contradictory report from what we have been following right here. The American-based NBC reports that a seismic event close to the missing jet's path has been recorded by Chinese scientists. Now, this seismic event was monitored by 2 Malaysian stations at around 2:55 a.m. about 95 miles south of Vietnam, the location where we made final contact with flight MH370. Now, Newsfirst Krishni Panditratna is currently in Malaysia and she joins us now with a comprehensive update.
The Chinese press had recently carried reports, photographs and videos of debris, including a dead body with a life vest found off the coast of Malacca, but the defense minister has refuted such reports. Now, there are some puzzling reports flying around the media that cell phones of some passengers were still ringing when called, but these reports are yet to be confirmed. There are claims as of on Saturday that the plane had made an emergency landing in Nanning, China. Now, there are some misleading reports that the aircraft has been seen by fishermen in Kota Baru, in Kelantan and Merang, and an oil rig worker in the southeast of Vietnam. And now there is another rumor that the jet engine maker had reported the plane flying for 4 hours after it disappeared from the radar. The government, however, has denied that report. The Defense and Acting Transport Minister has said that Boeing, the aircraft manufacturer, and Rolls-Royce, the engine manufacturer, both denied that they received such data. And also, in more developments that are taking place across the capital, some 5,000 paper cranes were displayed at a shopping mall with symbols of hope for the victims of the plane. And that's not the only one. There are other tributes that are being laid for the victims even at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport. So as the mystery deepens as to what happened to the flight, this is Krishni Panditratna reporting from Malaysia.
That was Krishni Panditratna for Newsfirst. Newsfirst International Desk, of course, will keep a close watch on the developments unfolding in the case pertaining to the MH370, the missing flight, through our international bureau network spread out across the world. Now, many media stations around the world have been reporting their views on the missing flight. The internet is filled with theories of how and why flight MH370 disappeared off the radar and from existence. Now, you too can share your views with us on what you think happened to flight MH370 and your theories on it. Simply log on to www.newsfirst.lk or log on to our Facebook page. You can also join the conversation through Twitter. For the Newsfirst International Desk, I'm Ramesh Bandar. For now, it's back to Nadeem and Stephanie.
Moving on to more local news, in the charge of contempt of court against him, Minister Rishad Bathiuddin has apologized to the members of the judiciary and to former Manor Magistrate A. Judson. The formal apology was made when the case was taken up in the Court of Appeal today before Justice WPDC Jayatilaka.
Minister Rushad Badiuddin had submitted a motion to court requesting that hearings be convened today. In his motion, the minister claims that another individual had used his mobile phone without his permission and had spoken to Mana magistrate A. Judson in a manner that would have exerted pressure on him. A media briefing was convened this afternoon by Minister Rushad Badiuddin. 2 phone calls were made from a phone that was registered under his name without his knowledge. The lawyers accepted these facts in court today. The Honourable Minister apologised if any disrespect had been caused to the court through these actions and noted that he had always respected the judiciary. He also added that he has been a law-abiding citizen. The case came to a close today. In truth, this problem cropped up because the call had been made from my phone. This case was filed based on the call that was made through my phone. We were able to amicably settle this matter today. There was a protest in Mana on the day in question. I was in Colombo on that day. The residents of Mana had encountered a problem on that day. I requested a helicopter from the President and the Defence Secretary and visited the area at 3 p.m. The issue had been resolved at 12 noon.
There
are a number of murderers being held in prisons in this country. They will now stage demonstrations and say that if you can pardon Minister Badiuddin, you should pardon us as well. It is one law for the wealthy. It is because he is a government minister. If by chance he is a JP representative or a candidate of the Janasatha Peramuna, he would not be released on bail, nor he would be pardoned. He would be taken to remand custody indefinitely.
අධිකරණයට විධායකයෝ විසින් මෙතනී ස්තන සිදු වූයේ හානියක් නිසා
Since what happened here is that the judiciary was harmed by the executive, the message that is being conveyed is very dangerous. Because through this, the people are being told they can mock the court and get away with it by simply expressing their disappointment, let alone begging for forgiveness. Serious punishment can be meted out for the accusation of contempt of court. A prison sentence can be handed down. If the accused is an MP, then they could lose their seat as a result. During sentencing, there are two different stances for criminal acts and contempt of court. Thereby, the court cannot take one stance and prescribe the same action, be it an apology or an expression of disappointment for both cases.
සමාව හෝ කනගාටුව ප්‍රකාශ කිරීම සම්බන්ධයෙන් එක හා සමාන පියවර ගැනීමේ හැකියාවක් නැහැ අධිකරණයට.
And still in local news, the sacred Sarvanya Dhatu relics that are to be interred at the Kotmale Mahaweli Mahasaya commenced their journey from the Balagola Buddhist Center in Kandy this morning.
The sacred Sarvanya relics are to be interred at the Kotmale Mahaweli Mahasaya, which was conceptualized by late Minister Gamini Disanayake on the 17th of March. The procession carrying the relics commenced its journey from the Balagola Buddhist Center in Kandy this morning with the blessings of members of the Mahasangha, including the chief prelate of the Askeri chapter of the Siam sect.
We know that Minister Gamini Disanayake was very enthusiastic about constructing this pagoda and gifted this to the Bambaragala Rajamaha Viharaya. I think that the fact that we are able to commence the journey of the relics from this location, reminiscing of him, is a mark of respect for him as well.
The procession carrying the relics arrived in the Gampula town this evening via Gatambe, Peradenia, Helioya and Valigalla. A group including Central Provincial Councillor Mayantha Disanayake and the Mayor of Gampula, Sarat Gamini Hettiarachi, gathered to welcome the relics. The procession carrying the relics will travel to the Tispane Viharaya in Kotmale. Meanwhile, President Mahinda Rajapaksa paid homage at temple trees today to other relics that are to be interred at the Kotmale Mahaweli Mahasaya. The President then presented the casket containing the relics to Minister Navin Disanayake.
The Mayor of Colombo, A.J. Muzamil, made clarifications today on problems surrounding the construction of bus stop canopies in the city.
එතකොට නගරය තුල කිසිම කෙනෙකුට බස් ආවරණ
It is prohibited for any person to construct bus stop canopies in the city. The Defence Secretary put forward a proposal to us on constructing bus stop canopies built to international standards in the city, and he came up with a plan. We have spent about 30 to 35 million rupees on this, and we are constructing close to 100 such bus stop canopies across the city. No one can put up election propaganda material on the new bus halts that we are constructing. What has Ravi Karunanayake done? When there are authorities entrusted with this task, he is using the decentralized fund which is granted by the government and has built 2 bus stop canopies in the Colombo North area and is carrying out his political propaganda. This is a completely illegal act carried out with ignorance of the law. Can they engage in political propaganda using our bus halts? I have not allowed anyone to do this, neither has anyone done this. Even the President has not put up advertisements on these bus halts. I think that money that should have been spent on the people has been wasted. It would have been better if he had used that money to build a public toilet for the people of Colombo North. These people are living with much difficulty. We have ordered him to remove this bus stop canopy.
මේක ගලවගෙන ගිහිල්ලා ගලවගෙන යන්නේ කියලා.
On witnessing this news item on the 7 o'clock news bulletin on our sister channel Sirsa TV, MP Ravi Karunanayake had this to say with regard to the mayor's statement.
I have just seen the news, and I think it is nothing but right to ensure that Sirsa gives us a time to speak tomorrow to ensure that clear the erroneous picture that has been created.
JVP leader MP Anura Kumar Dissanayake says that the future of the country depends on his party's programs. Dissanayake made these remarks when he met with Islamic clerical leaders today.
The JVP's manifesto, Our Vision, was presented to Islamic clerical leaders today in Colombo by JVP leader Anura Kumar Dissanayake and Propaganda Secretary MP Vijitha Herath. One type of communalism only serves to nourish another. When one type of communalism crops up, another grows. Communalism should be completely eradicated. In order to do this, national unity should be instilled. The majority of our country is hoping for change. Although there is a common agreement that there should be change, there is difference of opinion when it comes to what should be changed. We believe that this country can only move forward, that the future of this country depends on the implementation of Our Vision manifesto presented by the Janata Vimukti Peramuna.
The ceremony organized to launch the official website of UPFA Western Provincial Council candidate Hirunika Premachandra was held this afternoon. The ceremony was held at the Sri Lanka Hotel Management Institute.
My father was killed on the street. He was killed due to a political feud. I pleaded for justice before the court with regard to this. I've done everything to the best of my ability. I did all of this to bring justice to my father and the other 3 who were killed along with him. I wholeheartedly believe that the people will give me the justice that I am seeking. I pursued my education in law overseas for 4 years. I had 5 different jobs. I took care of a 4-year-old who was experiencing mental stress. I worked at the college library. I also worked in a canteen because my father only sent me money for my education. I'm saddened by reports on certain websites that I engage in other activities. I wear a sari, travel in a vehicle, speak with confidence and apply makeup on my face for the people. This is the truth.
A group of representatives of the Democratic Party convened a media briefing subsequent to calling on the President at Temple Trees yesterday and pledging their support to the United People's Freedom Alliance.
I respect Sarath Fonseca. He is a talented army commander and a soldier. However, he is not a good politician. Politics is a journey that is undertaken with the innocent people from the villages. We couldn't secure votes by following his way.
Before
finding fault of the others, he needs to look into his own things. Fonseca is not a mere character on television. As a woman, I suffered mental stress for over 3 months because of him.
Meanwhile, the Democratic Party convened a media briefing today and commented on the matter.
My sister is Padmini Mangalika Godagampala. Before she was married. Today she is Padmini Mangalika Vijayatilaka. I have her birth certificate right here. I am saddened that she has come forward to sling mud under the instructions of someone. Padmini Mangalika Vijayatilaka must have received a certain amount of money. She has even deceived Mahinda Rajapaksa. Her name is Padmini Mangalika Vijayatilaka. She has given her name as Mala Vijayatilaka.
I do not believe that the Democratic Party is the only challenge for the government. There are no other political parties. Because they cannot accept this challenge, they are resorting to such measures to deceive the people. They did this before. This is just another chapter. The people will not be deceived by this.
Western Provincial Council candidate S.M. Marikar visited several viharas today and obtained the blessings of the Mahasangha.
Colombo district candidate S.M. Marika first visited the Sugata Bimbarama Purana Vihara in Homagama. He met with the chief incumbent of the Vihara, Venerable Panaluwe Panyanaratero, and then obtained his blessings.
She is Marikar. She is ACS Hamid.
There were leaders like ACS Hamid in Sri Lanka who did not just serve their race alone. Therefore, unite everyone on this journey. I give you my blessings.
While
Sri Lanka is in this transitional era, politicians need to be tempered and patient. Therefore, I think joining with the temple and the mosque and instilling self-discipline in politicians will be a good start to bring forth politicians who are role models into our society.
The 8th edition of the Newsfirst Gum at the program, which brings to light the issues faced by ordinary people, commenced in Mathura this evening. Now, this groundbreaking initiative puts the people and the authorities responsible onto one platform and have the questions answered and solutions provided immediately. Now, the primary issue that will be discussed at today's Gum at the program is the issue being faced by residents when diverting water from the Nilwala River waterway. Incidentally, the villagers do not support the move. Several other issues centering on around the lives of the fisherfolk will be discussed at length at the 8th edition of Gum at the program in Mathura.
Constructions as part of the Newsfirst Eslon Diyasara Kavaya program commenced today. The Newsfirst Eslon Diyasara Kavya program was launched in 6 schools last year. The students who took part in these programs presented project reports, and the best project report was adjudged to be that of Visakha National College in Bandarvilla. Thereby, construction work of this project commenced today following religious observances. Representatives of Newsfirst as well as Eslon took part in the event.
We presented a project report. The dedication of our children made this report emerge the winner of an all-island competition. We commenced work on this project at the auspicious time of 10:23 a.m. We wish to convey our heartfelt gratitude to Eslon and Newsfirst for resolving a problem we have been facing for a prolonged period of time.
Minister of Economic Development Basil Rajapaksa says that strengthening small and medium enterprises is a priority for him as Sri Lanka develops. The minister made this statement at the opening ceremony of the Enterprise 2014 Trade Fair.
The Enterprise 2014 Trade Fair, organized by the Small Enterprise Development Division of the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Skills Development, was declared open at the Sirimava Bandaranaike Exhibition and Convention Centre in Colombo. We will empower housewives and the youth to set up domestic industries and encourage them to be self-employed. Then they will go to the next level and become entrepreneurs and manufacturers. It is people that have taken this next step that are here today. Developed countries around the world to develop through the strengthening of small and medium enterprises. The government is taking major steps to strengthen small and medium enterprises in Sri Lanka. The Enterprise 2014 Trade Fair will be held until the 16th of this month.
New reporter Vijay Singh of Alicante filed this report on 2 accidents that occurred on the Kandy-Kurnagal road.
A motor accident occurred on the Kandy Kurunagala road in Galagedara at around 3:45 this morning. The accident had occurred as the driver had lost control of the vehicle. 2 persons who sustained injuries have been admitted to the Galagedara hospital. 1 person was later transferred to the Kandy hospital for further treatment. Meanwhile, another accident occurred on the Kandy Kurunagala road in Paragahadenia, where a pedestrian using the pedestrian crossing was knocked down by a lorry. The injured was later admitted to the Mawatagama hospital for treatment. The Mawatagama police are carrying out further investigations.
And in sports news, St. Thomas's College, Mount Lavinia placed themselves in a commanding position on day 2 of the 135th annual Battle of the Blues as they moved closer towards recovering the prestigious D.S. Senanayaka Memorial Shield from arch rivals Royal College, Colombo. Now resuming on an overnight score of 134 for 3, the Thomian batsmen capitalized on the stellar performance of their bowlers yesterday as they declared on 325 for 8 with a first innings lead of 167 runs. At stumps today, the Royalists batting in their second innings won 36 for 1, trailing the Thomians by 131 runs.
Sanesh Dimel and Helakmal Nanayakkara returned to the crease for St. Thomas's today, but their partnership was short-lived as Nanayakkara was dismissed for 1. Hasanka Ratnayaka and Madhusha Ravichandrakumar contributed to the Thomian total with 24 and 23, but it was Sanesh Dimel who was the hero of the day as he joined the prestigious ranks of Royal Thomian Centurions with an unbeaten 110, ably supported by Kavinda Wickramasinghe, who made 66 before being dismissed, prompting the Thomian declaration. Chamika Karunaratne was the pick of the bowlers for Royal College, picking up 4 wickets in just over 29 overs with an economy rate of 3.12. Anup Tilakaratne and Hashin Ramanayaka picked up 2 Thomian scalps each. The Thomian bowlers struck early once again in Royal's second innings, dismissing opener Gishat Panditharatne for a duck, with Royal only having 2 runs on the board. Hasik Samarasinghe, who was looking promising for the Royalists, retired hurt on 16. With memories of the dramatic first innings collapse fresh in their minds, the Royal batsmen opted for a more cautious approach, and some sensible batting from opener Shamin Dais and Hashin Ramanayaka brought them to 36 for 1 at stumps on day 2, trailing the Thomians by 131 runs in the first innings with a day's play left.
With that, we wrap up Primetime News at 9. I'm Stephanie Lazarus. Thank you for joining us.
And I'm Nadim Majid. Good night and good luck.
Hotline 0114-896-896 www.newsfirst.lk. Feedback at newsfirst.lk.